So it's really important in a software project to make it a success to make sure that the requirements are really clearly communicated across the whole team. Building up the shared understanding with the client and across the whole development team. And the way that we like to do that at Geisten is splitting down the work into individual work items, development tasks. Sometimes we call these tickets. So it could be a user story or a behind-the-scenes development task. And it's really important for the project that these are top quality to make sure that we build the right thing and that there's an efficient development process and no misunderstandings and no unexpected surprises when it comes to the user acceptance testing phase. So I like to call these ticket smells, similar to the idea of code smells, which is perhaps a hint that there might be an issue waiting to happen further down the line if any of these things are going on with your tickets. It might be fine, but it might cause issues further down the line, so it's best to try and avoid them where possible. The first ticket smell I look out for is lack of clarity on the definition of done. It's really important that developers are clear on when this ticket is done and what other work might fall into later tickets. And this forms part of our quality assurance process because our QA team will test that it meets that definition of done. The second ticket smell I look for, which is very related, is having a lack of acceptance criteria, which we call ACs, or having some ACs that are a bit vague or a bit ambiguous, because the acceptance criteria is our definition of done. As I previously mentioned, if all of the acceptance criteria are met, then this ticket is considered to be complete. So it's a problem if the acceptance criteria are vague or a bit woolly, because it might be open to interpretation. The developer might think they've finished, the QA person might think it's not finished, or the customer might be surprised when we've delivered it. It's not what they're expecting. So it's really important to nail that down so that there's no misunderstandings between everyone. Another ticket smell that we look out for is lack of detail on the visual design elements. So this could be having a screenshot of the relevant page design if there's a full high fidelity visual design, or if there's just some wireframes, if any notes are needed on interactions about what will happen during this user journey. Another thing that I look out for is that the ticket's not linked up to relevant dependencies or other related tickets. That can be really useful for everyone to understand when this ticket is ready to work on. It might be dependent on a previous piece of work, or it might have some dependencies further down the line, and that can help understand how the specification fits together, the solution fits together as a whole, whereas this individual ticket is just one small part of that, understanding other related tickets. And they might, for example, when the QA is testing through their test plan on this ticket, they might want to add a note to a future dependency ticket to say, oh, test this once this next thing's delivered, retest this and make sure that it's all hooked up as intended. It's a problem when you're delivering individual tickets, small parts of a solution, to make sure we've kept the whole solution vision in mind. Another ticket smell that I look out for is if the ticket that we're talking about is too big. And my definition of too big is more than about a week's worth of developer effort. I think that's definitely a smell that you should consider whether it's possible to split it up into smaller chunks of work, because that's a bit too big and a bit too uncertain and risky. We have various approaches for how to split up work and separate out different parts of it. So yeah, that's a good sign that you need to think about that if it's looking like it's going to be more than a week's worth of work for one developer. Another ticket smell that we've seen quite often is referring to an external source on the ticket. That external source could become out of sync with the ticket. So the ticket should be the source of truth for when it's completed. It's fine to link out to other reference documentation, but it's worth bearing in mind that reference documentation could get changed, and what impact would that have on your ticket? Does it still make sense? Is there still a clear definition of the boundaries of this ticket? And if not, should some of that information be copied here or clarified? Another ticket smell that we look out for is only covering the happy path and ignoring edge cases or error cases. This is a very important part of a developer's workflow. Obviously, we want to focus on the happy path. That's the journey we want our users to go in, but they can do unexpected things, an error might happen, they might do things in an unexpected order. So it's just making sure that we've considered those and got appropriate guidance where needed for how the system should function in those scenarios. Another ticket smell that we've seen quite often and can be an easy trap to fall into is having some key details buried in the comments on a ticket rather than in the main body of the ticket. So with a lot of ticket management systems that you use, they have history tracking and comments on them, which are really useful for clarifying details and following up with relevant people. But if there's something really important that's clarified in a comment, that should be promoted up to the main body. The idea being that if anyone picks up and looks at that ticket, they should be able to understand the gist of it from just reading the main body. They shouldn't have to trawl through all the comments and see the history there just to get an understanding of what it covers. Another ticket smell that we look out for is using terminology that hasn't been defined or acronyms that haven't been defined, or using different words to refer to the same concept. It sounds kind of simple, but it can add a lot of confusion if you're calling the same thing by different names, and it can lead through into the confusion for the developers. They'll often use this terminology in their code, and that can cause confusion about what's being referred to. We like to take an idea from domain-driven design of establishing a ubiquitous language glossary of definitions with our customers and sharing it clearly with them so that we can have a definition of what the domain language is within this system. When I say this word, that's what I'm referring to. So we use that throughout our tickets and then on into the code base as well. It really helps prevent confusion and misunderstanding. The final ticket smell that I look out for is missing the why. So missing the motivation behind why we're doing this specific piece of work. This is really important to bear in mind. It can be easy to get caught up in all the details and specifying how the system will work in all these different scenarios. But it's good to also document the motivation behind why it's been designed in that way. This is really key because it allows any member of the development team to challenge if there's a simpler solution that might not have been thought of yet that also achieves that goal, or if any slight adjustments or clarifications need to be made to make sure that it still meets that original goal. That can be kept in mind by the developers and the QA team to make sure that we are meeting the original objective and motivation behind this ticket.